started. We said we were going to start promptly at 6:30, and it's 6:31. So first of all, I just want to thank you for coming this evening, for being advocates for Forest Ridge. And I'd also like to introduce a couple people to you. On my left is Mr. Joel Gallihue. He's the manager of school planning for Howard County, Howard County Public School System. And then on my right, I have Ron Morris, who is one of the directors of the school administration. So he supports me, and both these gentlemen are huge supports to Forest Ridge.
Absolutely.
And I'm in touch with them often. They're very supportive. I wanted to just kind of let you know the purpose of this get-together this evening, and really this was sort of my idea, in the sense that over time, I've been here for about 5 years, and I've heard questions over that time as Forest Ridge has changed and grown, just about what's happening with school planning. And I've spoken with a lot of you at PTA. A lot of people in this room are people that are very involved. I really do believe, and I've said this before, that we're very fortunate to have a wonderful school building. I've been in a lot of school buildings. Forest Ridge has great space. It's a great facility. We have very reasonable space. We do have a lot of children, but we also have a very large building, and we're very grateful for that, or I know I'm thankful for that, given other places that I've been. So what we wanted to do is get some questions from you, because we hear questions from time to time, but we thought, well, let's pull them together. And I appreciate all of you who submitted questions. Some folks submitted questions and let me know that they wouldn't be able to be here this evening. Mr. Ortega and Ms. Shanks are both here as well. And Mr. Ortega is going to take some notes for us so that anybody, yeah, Ms. Lindeman, you can kind of lay back a little bit. So Mr. Ortega is going to take notes, because there's some folks that would want the notes to the meeting to get their questions answered. We only have about 30 minutes because we're going to start our PTA meetings. So here's our plan. Our plan is for Mr. Gallihue. He is sort of the guru of the school planning process, and he's going to share a summary that encapsulates a lot of your questions. Kind of pull it together. There were a lot of similar questions that sort of went together. So he's going to start by giving a summary that hopefully will answer a lot of questions. And then hopefully we'll have some time for then folks to ask some questions that you feel that maybe did not get answered. Okay, so we're going to start off with Mr. Gallihue kind of going through his PowerPoint. He's been at other schools, done similar types of presentations.
Just to add one other piece, because we know that your PT meeting starts right at 7 o'clock. There are questions that still go unanswered. We'll make sure that we do follow up with you and get those answers to you.
And we even have a parking lot over there that Ms. Shanks made up for additional questions or specific questions that you might want to ask in a
Are you
private
okay to
setting.
stay, Ron?
Right, yeah, we're able to stay for a few minutes right after it as well.
Okay.
All right, so I'll go through the slides. We'll save the questions since you guys will have some more. So I guess I'll do it this way. So the functions of the school planning office, some things that we do, we measure and project enrollment growth. We monitor residential development through a relationship that we have with the Department of Planning and Zoning. We get their information every year for new developments. So a lot of times people say, hey, is that residential development in your numbers? And we get the numbers from the Department of Planning and Zoning before they're constructed. So it is significantly before. So we have them in there. They also take a crack at projecting long-term growth according to the general plan. So they use their information that they have about the how much development is allowed per year according to the growth management law, and the general plan, and they give us long-term housing projections, which we can then feed into our enrollment projection. We try to balance the use of existing facilities with redistricting. When we redistricted down in this area, 2010 for 2011, part of what we were doing was trying to take advantage of capacity that was available to the west of this area. Same kind of thing when we came back through and did the middle school redistricting. We also will look at relocating programs. If there is not enough capacity in a school for regional program, we'll try to move it to another school, consider some other location. We plan for the capital needs, additions, renovations, so the information that my office produces flows right into the capital budgeting process. We also look for new school sites. We try to give the board a sense as to what we believe is needed. We negotiate, purchase land, and we start the ball rolling on the construction of new facilities. I mean, there was a point in time around 2006 where Ductus Lane was a spreadsheet on my desk. You know, so it starts out pretty much in our office. So this flow chart kind of shows how redistricting fits in with some of the other things that happen in the county. So each winter we develop an enrollment projection. We keep noodling, working on it, testing it, and we eventually produce the feasibility study, which is a document that comes out every June. That's like our long-term planning document. So we provide a glimpse of the future each year for the board in the feasibility study. That's published online. And that document will give some guidance to the board when redistricting ought to happen. And this is not a year that we're going to be doing redistricting, nor will next year, but in 2017 we'll be doing redistricting to open our 42nd elementary school, which the location of that school is adjacent to Thomas Viaduct Middle School. So this process will require us to set some goals, put together an attendance area committee. Eventually the Board of Ed reviews everything. They might have their own changes. And depending upon what redistricting is done, it can affect the capital budget. We do a capital budget every year no matter what, whether we are doing redistricting, and that discussion is very important. Some of you, I know Lorraine and Ms. George at the capital budget meetings for the county council.
Ran into you.
Ran into me. Yeah, and she's right to be there because it's really important decision making. The county sets priorities and goals about how much money they want to bond to build new schools. There's different philosophies about how much should be bonded. You know, obviously as a school planner, I tend to think, hey, money's cheap. You know, sell a lot of bonds, build the schools now, especially with fuel costs being fairly low. Concrete costs are very much related to fuel. We should be building schools right now. But you know, there's other philosophies, and you know, being a good steward of the overall load. The more you bond, the less money the government has for spending on other programs. It cuts into the operating budget gradually. It's like taking on a really big mortgage. Over time, the rest of your family budget gets squeezed. So there's different perspectives on that. So anyway, that takes it through the capital budget. The Board of Ed reviews the capital budget. The County Council reviews the capital budget, finally makes a decision. Once we know whether we did redistricting and what capital projects, we publish what's called the open and closed chart. That looks like the projection that we began with, but it might have a few adjustments to it depending on whether capacity was added or taken away. And it shows areas being open or closed. And that's a subject of discussion right now in the county, this law that essentially stalls development. It doesn't prevent it. But our role is simply to produce this chart. We just try to give as honest a perspective as to how the impact of development is on our long-term capital planning program. And then we come back around each year to the capital budget and try to get the facilities built. We don't have the authority to make changes or say this development can go forward, that development can't. We just can make the chart. The rest of the world, the rest of this discussion goes on to the planning board and the county council.